Stop looking at other people. Stop comparing yourself to everyone around you. Stop worrying about what they're doing, what they're achieving, what they're posting on social media. Because while you're busy watching them, obsessing over their success, measuring yourself against their progress, you're missing the entire point. The real competition isn't out there. It's not your colleague who got promoted. It's not your friend who started a business. It's not some random person on the internet living their best life. The real competition is staring back at you in the mirror every single morning. And until you understand this, until you make this shift, you're going to stay exactly where you are, distracted, unfocused, and losing a game you don't even realize you're playing wrong. Let me tell you something that's going to completely change how you approach your life. The moment you stop competing with other people and start competing with yourself is the moment you become absolutely unstoppable. Because here's what happens. When you compare yourself to others, you're playing a game you can never win. There's always going to be someone richer, someone more successful, someone further ahead. And if your measure of success is based on beating them, you're going to spend your entire life chasing a moving target that you'll never catch. You'll waste years of your life being bitter, jealous, and resentful instead of focusing on the only thing that actually matters, becoming better than you were yesterday. Think about how much energy you waste looking at what other people are doing. You scroll through social media and you see someone's highlight reel and suddenly you feel like you're behind. You see a friend's success and instead of being inspired, you're intimidated. You see someone achieving what you want and instead of using it as motivation, you use it as an excuse to feel sorry for yourself. And all of that energy, all of that mental space, all of that emotional bandwidth that you're spending on other people, that's energy you could be using to improve yourself, to build your own empire, to chase your own vision. You're literally giving away your power to people who don't even know you exist. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. When you make yourself your own competition, when you wake up every day with the goal of being better than you were yesterday, everything changes. You're no longer distracted by what everyone else is doing. You're no longer derailed by someone else's success. You're no longer measuring your worth by external standards. You're running your own race on your own timeline, by your own rules. And that's when you become dangerous. That's when you tap into a level of focus and consistency that most people will never experience because they're too busy looking sideways at everyone else. What does it actually mean to compete with yourself? It means you wake up and you ask, what can I do today that my yesterday self couldn't do? How can I push myself further than I did last week? What weakness can I turn into a strength? What limit can I break? It means you're constantly raising your own standards. The person you were last month becomes your baseline, not your ceiling. You're not satisfied with maintaining. You're obsessed with improving. And when you live like this, when you make personal growth your only competition, you stop caring about what anyone else is doing because you're too busy destroying your own records. The beautiful thing about competing with yourself is that you can never lose. Every day is an opportunity to win. Every workout where you push harder than last time is a victory. Every day you show up when you don't feel like it is a win. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're beating your competition, which is the version of you that wants to quit. And those victories compound. Those small wins stack up. And before you know it, you look back and you don't even recognize who you used to be because you've completely transformed yourself through the relentless pursuit of being better than your former self. But here's what happens when you compete with others. You become bitter. You become jealous. You become someone who celebrates other people's failures instead of focusing on your own success. You become small. You become someone who needs others to lose so you can feel like you're winning. And that's a miserable way to live. When you compete with yourself, you become supportive of others because their success doesn't threaten you. You become confident because your worth isn't tied to being better than someone else. You become focused because you're running your own race and you don't have time to worry about anyone else's lane. You need to understand something right now that's going to save you years of frustration, bitterness, and wasted energy. The game you're playing, this constant comparison with everyone around you, this obsession with measuring yourself against other people's success, it's a game that's rigged against you from the start. You cannot win. It's mathematically impossible. And the reason is simple. There will always be someone ahead of you. Always. There will always be someone with more money, more success, more followers, more opportunities, more talent, more luck. If your definition of winning is being better than everyone else, Then you've condemned yourself to a life of perpetual inadequacy because the finish line keeps moving every time you think you're getting close. Think about what happens when you make other people your benchmark for success. You see someone driving a luxury car, so you work hard to get one. You finally get it, and for a moment you feel accomplished. Then you see someone with an even more expensive car, and suddenly your achievement feels meaningless. You celebrate a promotion, but then you hear about someone who got promoted faster. You build a business to 6 figures, but then you meet someone doing 7. You post about your vacation, but someone else is posting from somewhere more exotic. It never ends. The comparison trap is designed to keep you running on a treadmill where you're constantly moving, but never actually arriving anywhere that feels satisfying. Here's what's actually happening when you compete with others. You're letting external circumstances dictate your self-worth. You're giving random people, most of whom don't even know you exist, complete control over how you feel about yourself. Your confidence rises and falls based on how you stack up against them on any given day. And that's not strength. That's weakness disguised as ambition. Because real power comes from internal standards, not external validation. Real confidence comes from knowing you're progressing on your own path, not from constantly checking to see if you're way ahead of someone else on theirs. But the worst part about competing with others isn't just that you can't win. It's what it does to your character. It turns you into someone you don't want to be. You start secretly hoping others fail so you can feel better about yourself. You feel threatened by other people's success instead of inspired by it. You spend conversations trying to subtly one-up people instead of genuinely connecting with them. You become someone who measures their value by comparison rather than by contribution. And somewhere along the way, you lose sight of what you actually wanted in the first place because you're too busy chasing what other people have. Let me tell you what the most successful people understand that everyone else misses. They're not competing with anyone except themselves. They don't care if someone else has more because they're focused on having more than they had yesterday. They're not intimidated by other people's wins because they're too busy creating their own. They're not distracted by what everyone else is doing because they have a vision for their life that's so clear, so compelling, so personal that no external comparison can shake it. They understand that success isn't about being number one in the world. It's about being better than you were before. The moment you realize that competing with others is stealing your focus, draining your energy, and corrupting your character is the moment you can redirect all of that power towards something that actually matters, your own evolution. Because while you're busy measuring yourself against people who are on completely different paths with completely different starting points and completely different destinations, you're missing the only race that you actually have control over. The race against yourself. The race to become the absolute best version of who you're capable of being. And that's a race you can actually win. Listen to me very carefully, because this is going to hit you hard. Every single time you pick up your phone and scroll through social media, every time you look at someone else's life and feel that knot in your stomach, every time you measure your progress against someone else's highlight reel, you're literally giving away your power. You're taking the energy, the focus, the mental bandwidth that you could be using to build your empire, and you're handing it over to people who have absolutely no impact on your actual life. And the crazy part, most of them don't even know you exist. You're sitting there consumed by what they're doing, letting their success make you feel inadequate while they're not thinking about you at all. They're living their lives while you're watching theirs instead of building your own. Think about how insane this actually is. You have dreams, goals, a vision for your life that's unique to you. You have potential that nobody else has because nobody else is you. And instead of pouring all of your energy into manifesting that vision, into developing that potential, into becoming who you're meant to be, you're spending hours every day consuming other people's content. You're studying their lives instead of building yours. You're focused on their wins instead of creating your own. You're using your most valuable resource, your attention, to make other people feel good about their achievements while you feel worse about your lack of them. That's not motivation. That's self-sabotage disguised as inspiration. Here's what nobody tells you about comparison. It's a thief. It steals your joy, your confidence, your momentum, and most importantly, it steals your time. Because every minute you spend obsessing over what someone else has is a minute you're not spending on getting what you want. Every ounce of emotional energy you waste feeling jealous or inadequate is energy you could be channeling into action. Every thought you have about how far ahead someone else is a thought you're not having about your next move. You're literally financing someone else's dream with the currency of your own attention while your dreams sit there unfunded, waiting for you to finally invest in them. And here's the part that should terrify you. This comparison habit is completely destroying your ability to execute. When you're constantly looking at what other people are doing, you become paralyzed. You see someone succeeding in one direction, so you pivot your strategy. Then you see someone else winning in a different way, so you change course again. You're not building anything because you're too busy reacting to what everyone else is building. You're not running your own race because you're trying to run everyone else's race simultaneously. And the result? You end up nowhere, exhausted from running in circles, while the people you were watching are miles ahead because they had the discipline to focus on their own path. Let me break down what's really happening here. When you give your power away to external comparisons, you're operating from a place of scarcity. You're acting like there's only so much success to go around, and if someone else gets it, that means there's less for you. But that's not how the world works. Someone else's success doesn't diminish your opportunities. Someone else's progress doesn't slow down your journey. The only thing that slows you down is you wasting your energy on things that don't move you forward. The only thing that diminishes your opportunities is you being too distracted by other people's lives to see the opportunities in your own. Right now, today, you have a choice. You can continue scrolling, comparing, envying, and wondering why you're not where you want to be, or you can take back your power. You can redirect every ounce of that energy you've been wasting on watching other people and pour it into yourself, into your craft, into your goals, into your vision. Because the truth is, you already have everything you need to succeed. You just need to stop giving it away. Here's something that's going to completely transform how you approach your life starting right now. Every morning when you wake up, you should only be asking yourself one question. And it's not, am I doing better than them? It's not, do I have more than that person? It's this, am I better today than I was yesterday? That's it. You have to look at who you were yesterday and be brutally real about your weaknesses, your failures, your areas that need improvement. You can't lie to yourself. You can't make excuses. You can't pretend you're doing better than you are because the person you're competing with knows all your secrets. They know when you quit early. They know when you took the easy path. They know when you didn't give maximum effort. And if you're going to beat that person, if you're going to become better than who you were, you have to acknowledge where you actually are so you can map out where you need to go. This is why self-competition is so powerful. It forces you to be accountable to the one person you can never escape, yourself. You can fool other people about your effort, your discipline, your commitment, but you can't fool yourself. And when your only goal is to beat the person you see in the mirror, when that becomes your obsession, you unlock a level of performance that external competition could never inspire. Because you're not doing it for validation. You're not doing it for approval. You're doing it because becoming better is the only option you're willing to accept. You want to know the most beautiful thing about making yourself your own competition. You can never lose. Read that again because most people miss this. When you compete with others, you're going to lose sometimes. Actually, you're going to lose most of the time because there are billions of people out there and statistically someone is always going to be ahead of you. But when you compete with yourself, when your only goal is to be better than you were yesterday, every single day becomes an opportunity to win. Every workout where you push one more rep than last time is a victory. Every morning you get up when you don't feel like it is a win. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're beating your competition, which is the version of you that wants to quit, that wants to stay comfortable, that wants to take the easy road. Think about how powerful this is. You're no longer at the mercy of external circumstances to determine if you're successful. You're not waiting for someone else to fail so you can feel like you're winning. You're not dependent on being better than anyone else to feel accomplished. You create your own wins every single day through the choices you make. And those wins, they compound, they stack, they build on top of each other until you look back 6 months from now and you don't even recognize the person you used to be. Because while everyone else is out there playing a game of comparison where they win sometimes and lose most of the time, You're playing a game where you win every single day as long as you show up and do the work. Here's what this actually looks like in practice. Yesterday, you ran 2 miles. Today, you run 2.1 miles. That's a win. Last month, you made 10 sales calls a day. This month, you make 12. You're winning. Last week, you read for 20 minutes before bed. This week, you read for 30. Victory. These aren't dramatic transformations that get celebrated on social media. These aren't the kind of wins that other people notice or applaud, but they're the wins that actually matter because they represent real progress. They represent you expanding your capacity. They represent you becoming more than you were. And when you stack enough of these small personal victories, you create massive transformation that nobody saw coming except you. But here's the part that most people never experience because they're too busy comparing themselves to others. Competing with yourself makes you fall in love with the process. When your goal is to beat your own record, the journey becomes exciting. Every day is a challenge to see how much better you can be. Every workout becomes an experiment to test your limits. Every project becomes an opportunity to exceed your previous standard. You're not grinding through it, waiting to arrive at some destination. You're enjoying the game of constant improvement. And that enjoyment, that genuine love for getting better, that's what creates sustainability. That's what allows you to maintain this intensity for years instead of burning out after a few weeks. The wins keep coming because you're not dependent on perfect conditions to win. You don't need a trophy. You don't need recognition. You don't need anyone else to validate your progress. You won today because you showed up when yesterday's version of you would have made excuses. You won today because you pushed through when the old you would have quit. You won today because you chose growth over comfort. And tomorrow you get to win again. And the day after that, and the day after that, because when you're your own competition, the opportunity to win never runs out. It's available every single morning when you wake up and decide that today's version of you is going to be better than yesterday's version. That's not just winning, that's becoming unstoppable through the accumulation of countless personal victories that nobody else sees, but you feel in every fiber of your being. Let me tell you about the dark side of external competition that nobody wants to admit. When you make other people your competition, when you measure your success by how you compare to them, something ugly starts growing inside you. You become bitter. You become jealous. You become the kind of person who secretly celebrates when others fail because their failure makes you feel better about yourself. You see someone struggle and there's a part of you that's relieved because at least you're not as bad off as them. You hear about someone's setback and you feel a twisted sense of satisfaction because now the gap between you and them isn't as wide. And that's a miserable, soul-destroying way to live. You become small. You become someone whose happiness depends on other people's misery. You become someone who needs others to lose so you can feel like you're winning. Think about what this does to your character over time. You can't genuinely be happy for anyone because their success feels like a threat to yours. When your friend gets a promotion, instead of celebrating with them, you're calculating how far ahead they are now. When someone shares good news, instead of feeling joy for them, you're comparing it to your own situation and coming up short. You start having conversations where you subtly try to one-up people, where you downplay their achievements or highlight your own, where everything becomes a competition that nobody else signed up for. You become exhausting to be around. You become the person people don't want to share their wins with because they know you're going to make it about you and your insecurities. But here's what happens when you shift and start competing with yourself. Instead, everything changes. Other people's success stops threatening you because you're not playing the same game anymore. You're running your own race. Their finish line has nothing to do with yours. Their wins don't mean you're losing. Their progress doesn't slow down your journey. And because of that, you can genuinely celebrate with them. You can be inspired by them instead of intimidated. You can learn from them instead of resenting them. You become someone who lifts others up instead of secretly hoping they fall. You become someone people want to be around because your confidence isn't fragile. It's not dependent on being better than everyone else. It's rooted in something much deeper, the knowledge that you're constantly improving. And that's all that matters. This is the paradox that most people never understand. When you stop competing with others, you actually become more successful. Because you're not wasting energy on jealousy, resentment, or comparison. All of that energy gets redirected into your own growth. You're not distracted by what other people are doing. You're focused on what you're building. You're not paralyzed by someone else's success. You're motivated by your own progress. And that focus, that clarity, that singular dedication to your own path, That's what creates real results. While everyone else is busy looking sideways, comparing, competing, getting distracted, your head's down, executing, improving, compounding your efforts into something significant. Here's the truth that changes everything. There's enough success for everyone. Someone else winning doesn't mean you're losing. Someone else getting opportunities doesn't mean there are fewer opportunities for you. The world is abundant, not scarce. But you can only access that abundance when you stop operating from a scarcity mindset where you see everyone else as competition. When you compete with yourself, when you focus on being better than you were yesterday, you tap into infinite potential because you're not limited by anyone else's ceiling. You're only limited by your willingness to keep pushing your own boundaries. And the person you become through that process, that person doesn't need anyone else to fail. That person is too busy winning their own game to care about anyone else's scoreboard. There's only one question you need to ask yourself every single day, and everything else is noise. Not, am I better than them? Not, do I have more than that person? Not, am I winning compared to everyone else? The only question that matters, the only question that will actually transform your life is this: am I better today than I was yesterday? That's it. That's the entire metric. And if you can answer yes to that question every single day for the next year, you will become unrecognizable. You will achieve things you can't even imagine right now. Because this one simple question cuts through all the confusion, all the comparison, all the distractions, and focuses you on the only thing you actually have control over, your personal growth. Let me tell you why this question is so powerful. It forces you to be honest with yourself. You can lie to other people about your progress. You can post on social media and make your life look better than it is. You can tell your friends you're crushing it when you're barely surviving. But when you ask yourself if you're better today than yesterday, you can't hide. You know the truth. You know if you showed up or made excuses. You know if you gave maximum effort or just went through the motions. You know if you took steps forward or stayed comfortable. And that honesty, that raw accountability to yourself, that's where real transformation begins. Because you can't improve what you won't acknowledge. And this question forces you to acknowledge exactly where you are. Here's what happens when you make this your daily practice. You stop getting distracted by everything happening around you. Someone posts about their success. Good for them. You're focused on whether you're better than you were yesterday. Someone tries to compete with you. Let them. You're competing with yourself. Someone judges your progress. Their opinion is irrelevant. The only opinion that matters is yours when you look in the mirror and ask if you move forward today. This question creates tunnel vision the best possible way. It eliminates all the external noise and zeroes you in on the only race that actually matters, the race against who you were yesterday. But here's the part most people miss. This isn't about massive leaps. This isn't about transforming overnight. This is about consistent incremental improvement. If you're 1% better today than you were yesterday, and you do that for a year, you're not going to be 365% better. You're going to be 37 times better. Because of compound growth. That's the power of this approach. You're not trying to become someone else. You're not trying to match someone else's level. You're just trying to be slightly better than you were. And those slight improvements, when repeated daily, create exponential results that nobody sees coming except you because you've been tracking your own progress while everyone else was distracted. This question also protects you from the comparison trap. When you wake up and your first thought is about being better than yesterday's you don't have mental space for comparing yourself to others. Your mind is occupied with your own development. What skill can you sharpen? What habit can you strengthen? What weakness can you improve? What limit can you push? You're not scrolling social media first thing in the morning, getting discouraged. You're not checking what everyone else is doing. You're checking in with yourself. You're measuring your progress against your own baseline. And that focus is what separates people who actually achieve their goals from people who just talk about them. So stop overcomplicating this. Stop looking for complicated strategies. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop measuring yourself against the entire world. Just ask yourself every single morning, am I better today than I was yesterday? And if the answer is yes, you're winning. If the answer is no, then today is the day you make sure tomorrow's answer is different. That's the game. That's the path. That's how you become unstoppable. So here's what I need you to do starting right now. Stop looking at what other people are doing. Unfollow the accounts that make you feel behind. Stop having conversations where you compare yourself to others and start asking yourself one question every single day. Am I better today than I was yesterday? That's it. That's the only metric that matters, because when you make yourself your own competition, when you commit to constant improvement, when you focus all of your energy on outworking, outlearning, and outlasting the person you were yesterday, you become unstoppable. You're no longer playing someone else's game. You're creating your own path, and nobody can beat you at being you. So stop competing with the world. Start competing with yourself. Destroy your old records, break your own limits, and become the greatest version of yourself that's ever existed. The competition is in the mirror. Now go win.